All right. So, the meeting of the Duvall Planning Commission for Wednesday, July 8th, 2026 is hereby called to order. Let's salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice and all. All right, so we got, let's do roll call, currently in our meeting room here. We have, Sarah Taylor, we have, Mala. Exactly, I'm gonna nail it one of these times. Justin Rank and William Chappell is online, and we have our representatives from the city staff here as well. Are there any proposed changes to tonight's agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
You approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, I second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. All right, the motion carries. We will now move to the good of the order. Do any commissioners have anything they would like to share?
I don't have any.
Okay, good to go. So the next item is the approval of the minutes from June 10th. Planning Commission meetings. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes? No corrections. If there's is there a motion to approve the minutes from June 10th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting as presented?
Move.
I'll second the motion too. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. If there's no discussion, all those in favor to approve the minutes say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion carries. Just wanted to make note that Siri Erickson Brown is now in attendance. Okay, we will now move to the city staff announcements.
Right. We just have a couple of announcements tonight. One is that we received a complete application for the Versa Sports Center land use application, which is proposed basically south of the Big Rock development. So along Big Rock Road and 271st. You can see a couple of images from the proposal here. So just wanted to put that on your radar that they've submitted a complete application and their first round of review is started. And then
yeah, so we have an open house that we're going to do a joint planning commission and city council meeting on what is
July 22nd.
July 22nd. It's on the screen. That will be a workshop for the comprehensive plan update that we've been working on. We'll have basically the proposed zoning map and changes, explain the Title 14 zoning code changes as well. We'll kind of run through the general description of what we've been working on. The goal for the overall update is definitely by the end of the year, but we're aiming for I believe November for that update. So this is kind of the beginning workshop to take a look at what we've been doing so far, look at some maps, point at some things, give some feedback and whatnot. So that'll be an open workshop with or an open house with not just planning commission and council, but also open to the public too for their input. So it would be kind of fun. But yeah, so looking forward to it. We did some advertising at the farmers market last week with the city booth. Had a poster up if you happen to be there, see us, but avoid us or things. So but yeah, pretty excited about it and see that information in your pocket.
Any questions about the event?
Is that it for staff announcements?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the public comment here. All right, so individual providing public comment must be physically present at the meeting. Comments are not accepted from those virtually attending. Written comments are accepted until noon on the day of the meeting and must be submitted or may be submitted by email to the city clerk at duvall.gov or mailed to the PO Box 1300 or deposited at the city hall drop box, Main Street. So we will now open the public comment portion of the meeting. Public comments must be made in person. Do we have comments there? Okay, seeing no further public comment, the public comment period is now closed. The next item on our agenda here is discussing Bill 26-4. After the Diamond Design Review, we will receive a presentation from Rick Chesmore with Chesmore Buck Architecture.
And you can work through the design script, Marie script. Get that to you.
Okay, so the design script, moving on to the actual design script here. The design review for SPR 25-1 Acre to Diamonds will now come to order. The general rule order is as follows. Only one person shall speak at a time. Any interruptions of the person speaking by planning commissioner or staff member shall be consistent with Robert's rules of order. Any person making disruptive sounds, those all are. While another individual has the floor or disruptive or threatening remarks will be while addressing the planning commission or at any time during the hearing shall be asked to leave by the chair and barred for further audience before the planning commission at the meeting. I will now proceed with the order of operation for the design review. The purpose of this design review is for the planning commission acting as the design review board to review the proposed building elevations for SPR 25-1 Acres of Diamonds for general conformance with the city's design guidelines codified in Duvall Municipal Code Chapter 14.34 and to provide a recommendation to the city's hearing examiner. The design review staff report and recommendation along with the associated attachments for this design review are provided in the planning commission packet and are available on the city's websites. The order of speaking during this design review will be first city staff, then the applicant presentation, then public comments. We will now hear from Maddie Lawrenson, associate planner, who will provide us with a brief introduction.
And because I provided an introduction at the last meeting, there's not a whole lot that I need to say this week. But I will just say we have laid it all out for you in the staff reports and yeah, just be aware that the planning commission scope is fairly limited. We'll be looking at the design of the exterior design of the building. And I think with that, I'm happy to just pass it along to Rick for the presentation.
Okay. We will now hear from Rick Chesmore from Chesmore Buck Architecture.
Can I come join?
Yes.
Great. Good evening. I'm Rick Chesmore with Chesmore Architecture. We're happy to present the Acres of Diamonds Family Renewal Home project this evening. And I brought a few slides that I think will help define the building and the character of the project. Really excited about it. I've actually been working with Acres of Diamonds somewhat on a pro bono basis early on in 2019, single family residence that I'll point out in a site plan here in a few minutes, as we converted the single family residence into a congregate facility for 11 families, which is now a key feature of their program. It's working very well. So Matt, if you could go to the next slide, please.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I want to start with the site plan because it has a lot to do with the design of the building. So I just want to make a few comments about that, and then we'll get right into the building design. The existing campus is located on just over an acre. It's obviously a long, narrow parcel. It's about 143 feet wide and 318 feet long. Therefore, you can see the orientation of the building and some of the other features. The site slopes about 10 feet in vertical elevation from the east property line, which is on the upward property line to the lower. There's a fair amount of slope. There's vehicular access from Northeast Kennedy Drive, which is on your right side, which is on the south side of the property. In this drawing, because of the long nature, we place north to the left, just to get an orientation on the solar orientation. Currently, there are two existing buildings in the subject property. There's, as I mentioned before, there's what was a single family residence on the left, top left, which is now a congregate facility. Like I said, housing as many as 11 families at one time. And that was a really successful project because we worked closely with the city of Duvall. And there were some thresholds. We were trying to defer our site improvements until the big building, and we were able to do that, which not only helped fund that project, but also allowed us to focus on the design of the overall site, which was quite successful. So there's the single family residence now a congregate facility, and then of course, if you see the long rectangle, the red rectangle there, that's an existing apartment building. It's a 3-story building. It houses 7 units. We're going to demolish that building plus the little storage shed, as you see. And it's quite an old building. It has a lot of deferred maintenance, and obviously it allows us to build this new building. The first level of the building, which I'll talk about here in a minute, has access points on both ends of the building. Some of the other nice things that we did with the congregate facility that we remodeled in 2022 was we updated to address the International Building Code, the 2018 version, with all new fire sprinklers, exiting, and accessibility. So that building is essentially completed. Leading into the next project, proposed project, the Family Renewal Home, we're calling it. This is to better serve women and their children facing homelessness. Acres of Diamonds plan to expand their program by meeting the growing demand for community-based transitional housing by building a new congregate facility for up to 24 families on the same campus. So eventually we'll have the ability to house 35 families on the same parcel. We'll demolish the 3rd-story apartment building, as I mentioned. A new 3-story, 21,153 square foot mixed-use family renewal home is planned to be placed on the south portion of the property, which you see there with the hatches kind of centrally on the site. We also plan to install a playground area directly to the south, which you see kind of where the long rectangle is, the red rectangle, which meets the DEL, the Department of Early Learning requirements. It's pretty exciting to have that as you come onto the site. We also are installing a common walkway and play ports between the two buildings, but you see between the two buildings, there's actually a 10-foot separation required between the two buildings, and we're taking advantage of that with a ramp and some stairs, and then a basketball court and a play court associated between the two structures. And then extensive site work improvements consist of installing all new frontage improvements, which you see next to Northeast Kennedy Drive, sidewalks, curbs and gutters, landscaping, a new paved driveway surface, and access for 21 vehicles, including 3 ADA stalls, an approved waste management, trash, and recycle location, which you see down on the central left-hand side with the 2 doors that open with the enclosure. Approved access for fire apparatus, which has been vetted with the fire department, and providing landscaping throughout the entire site, as you see basically around the site there. Next slide, please, Maddie. This is the lower level, which you call the first floor plan, and you can see the 2 entrances on either end, leading to a common hallway. And then, of course, on the lower level, we're providing infant room, toddler room, early preschool, and school age room for before and after school programs. A lot of these women will be entering the workforce, and will be able to take care of their children either after school or before school or even during school, depending on the age group. And then we've got, of course, all the support systems on this lower level. We've got reception area and office, a director's office, and really this is when the women come to the program. They actually enter into this facility on this floor level, and then they're given kind of details about the program. And then, of course, our mechanical space as well will be on this lower level with the common hallway. Next slide, please. And then this is really becoming the heart of the program. We've got 6 bedroom units, which in the bedroom units, you can actually place multiple beds in each bedroom for smaller or even larger families, depending on the size. And then we have two bathrooms on each side. So a total of 4 bathrooms, a total of 12 bedrooms on the second floor, what I call the main floor. And the bathrooms are ADA compliant, a little larger, particularly when moms have a couple children and they're using the bathroom facility. We need extra room. And then we have a common room, which I call a living room, which is able to be used by multiple families at the same time. And then a flex space that you see on the backside, with some little office space. But basically, it's kind of a game room. It's a craft room, those kind of things. Next slide, Maddie. I also forgot to mention there's an elevator too that you see on the kind of off the hallway on the top left-hand side. And then the third floor, the upper floor, again, mimicking what was on the main floor. We have 6 bedrooms on each side, a total of 12 bedrooms, a total of 4 bathrooms, 2 on each side, ADA compliant. And then on this floor, we've got a dining hall, a dining room for multiple families, and then we've got a kitchen facility that allows up to 8 workstations at one time. So we're encouraging families to obviously make their own meals and clean up, etc. And then the next slide, please. And then the way the building was designed was really because of the slope of the lot. You see, there's on the west elevation, there's a daylight floor, and we've also got essentially our infant, toddler, preschool rooms on that level because they need to have direct access out to a right of way or to the sidewalk area. But we thought it would be rather important to delineate that area with kind of something that really touched the ground. And so we're using a dark bronze brick material that creates a really nice base. And then we really worked on modulating the elevations so that the building, although it's one building, it looks like a series of smaller houses that are connected. And we're alternating materials on the facade with horizontal bevel siding and and board and bat siding, vertical board and bat siding, to break up some of the massing as well. And then of course the roof planes mimic the different massing. You can see the west elevation. You've got a 3-story elevation. The other nice thing about using the darker colored base is it kind of breaks up that 3-story mass. We're also cantilevering the floors of a couple of those elements over that brick facade as well. And then of course on the east elevation, which is the upper part of the site, you've got a two-story elevation. And again, you can see the same common modulation of the facade and the roof forms that are occurring. And then of course on the south elevation, that's your entry elevation that you'll see coming onto the property. We're staggering the volumes as well, or the massing as well, with gable roof forms. And then we also have a little wood covering that you see kind of on that south elevation next to the playground area. So there's a covering for the kids in case it starts raining or inclement weather. And then on the north elevation, that's that kind of common walkway ramp area that are between the two buildings. The one thing I want to point out is you see on the west elevation, we have this gable roof that's kind of in the middle of the space. That really is indicating the use really is kind of more home, which is that common living area on the second level, and it's the dining hall on the upper level. And we're actually going to vault that ceiling so we get a little more volume in that space, create a little bit more of a homey environment. And then the next slide, please. This is basically what you would see as you come in onto the site. You see the wood covered structure there for the playground area. We've got some small shed roofs that on each end that identify sense of entry. We're trying to downplay the entry on this building because of security concerns. So we don't have like a central entry. We've got more of a subtle entry on each end. And then you can see the building modulation as you come on site. And we're trying to flatten out we've got this 10-foot elevation, but we're really flattening out this elevation with the parking area and the playground, and of course the walkway between the south end of the building and the north end of the building. And then the next slide, please. And this is basically looking straight from the west, kind of a bird's eye view, looking back at the building, the new building, and then of course you see on the left-hand side the existing building that's there, and on the right-hand side you see the new playground area. I think that concludes the presentation.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Yeah.
We will now open up for public comment. Read through some of this before, but I'm going to read through it again. Comments provided by the public.
I'm not sure if you need to if there's no one.
Oh,
Person.
you?
Over there.
Okay.
No, I'm on the board of Acres and here to answer any questions that might come up.
Okay.
We're not gonna talk, but we'll answer.
Very cool. All right. Does anybody on the commission have any comments or questions?
I have one question maybe.
Yeah.
About the security. I know I saw you mention due to security reasons. So how are you securing the entrance? Like, is there like a security gate, or how does the tenants like come in and go?
Yeah, I mean we haven't actually got into the locking mechanism of the doors, those kind of things. We haven't got into that level of detail, but there would be some of that. And yeah, so just a little funny story. We had a traffic engineer that I was supposed to notify the staff that he was going to be coming on the property, and we were monitoring traffic obviously for the number of parking stalls were required. And I forgot to. I obviously didn't notify them, and it was quite and he was noticed right away. Particularly a male entering the site is something that's sensitive, and so obviously the staff met him, immediately. In terms of actually how it's going to work, I don't know if they're going to have a key fob, or we haven't got into that level of detail, but to be something like that. for access. Yeah.
But I'm glad you're doing it, for the safety of the residents
Yeah.
who are lives there.
Yeah, it's very important.
Do we have any other comments, questions? Okay,
Great work.
I will close the design review at 6:27.
Thank you.
All right. On to agenda bill 26-5. Okay, so this is going to be the public hearing for the DMC 14.42 sensitive area regulation code amendments. I'll open this up at 6:28 here. I went through all the rules of public speaking here, so we don't need to go through those again. I think we're just going to go right on to presentation.
Yes. So,
You want us to just jump right in?
yeah. That's what it says. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you can kind of just. So here. So my name is Morgan Dorner. I serve as the city's principal planner. Tonight, I'm presenting the proposed amendments for chapter 14, section 42 of the Duvall Municipal Code. This is the city's sensitive areas ordinance. So just a bit of background here. The Washington State Growth Management Act requires cities and counties to periodically review and update their critical areas, or in our case, sensitive areas regulations to ensure they remain consistent with current state law, best available science, and fulfill the requirements and follows the city's comprehensive plan. So, and just to note, sensitive areas include wetlands, fish and wildlife habitat, conservation areas, geologically hazardous areas, critical aquifer recharge areas, and frequently flooded areas. Sensitive area regulations are meant to protect environmentally important resources while also reducing risks to public safety and property. So what we're looking at doing in the proposed ordinance here is pretty much a periodic update of the code to reflect the current state statutes and administrative guidance. It is also to incorporate best available science as required under the GMA, improve clarity, organization, and consistency throughout the code. It will also update definitions and technical standards where necessary, but also maintain a predictable and understandable review process for property owners and applicants. So this is up here on the screen is just kind of explaining to you, it's pretty much similar slides that you've seen before, but it's just explaining what best available science means. And so that's the basis for developing policies and regulations and must be included in our work. So that comes from state and they have for kind of each critical area, they have model guidance that's backed through their experts in a way. So we kind of use that as a guide when we update our code, make sure that we're current. So Board. But. Yeah. Oh, so this is just a description of the process. So this is primarily a regulatory update. It's not intended to be a significant change where development can occur, but rather issue or ensure the city's regulations remain legally compliant, or scientifically supported, and easier to administer. Some of the key changes I want to mention with this, you can go to the slide here. This is just kind of describing things, but it includes the adoption of the most current wetlands rating system and associated buffer standards. You can, next slide. Updated standards for fish and wildlife habitat conservation areas using state guidance. And next slide. So this includes what we kind of talked about prior, which was about the some of the changes to how the state recommends that we analyze buffers to streams. And this just kind of shows the timeline, but the updates also include revised definitions to prove consistency with state law and the city's development regulations. It administers, or it's mostly administrative updates to simplify code organization and improve implementation. So some kind of process cleanups and things like that over time. We've noticed that we updated for a little bit of ease and how we apply the code and then how applicants work through it. And then also some clarification on the mitigation sequencing. So moving forward, as far as the public review into the process, the proposed ordinance that went through public noticing and environmental review under the State Environmental Policy Act. It's made available for the public review and comment. The Planning Commission tonight is holding a public hearing to consider public testimony for moving forward with a recommendation from City Council. Prior to the meeting, staff sent you 2 submitted written public comments. If you got a chance to take those, they will be included with the record for the hearing as well. So, for tonight, we can open the. I've concluded my presentation. So, if there's anybody online who wishes to speak at this time, just use the raise hand function. I don't know if we have, it looks like we have 4 people, so. What if it's just all?
We have 1 participant remotely. I don't know if our practice is to take any, I don't believe we typically take any public comment remotely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they do need to come here in person.
And just to summarize the comments that we received, one was from the Tulalip tribe. Tulalip, thank you. Tulalip tribe. They were in support of the regulations. They only asked for one clarification to be added. If you have a wetland already and there's like a driveway or road that bifurcates it, cuts through it, you can maintain that driveway or road within the existing sort of footprint, which is normal to be able to allow maintenance repair. But if there's ever development proposed that would include the removal of that roadway or driveway, that they ask to provide additional language to indicate that you then have to look at the entire buffer, which that would be the case the way we would enforce those regulations. They just wanted a clarifying sentence, which staff is happy to incorporate into the regulations. If there's no objections from Planning Commission, that would be included as part of a recommendation to council to include that language. The other comment was very different from the Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish counties. They were less enthusiastic about utilizing the site potential tree height. Remember that diagram of the like, tree falling down to establish, did I show you guys that?
Yeah.
So they're not crazy about that regulation. They would rather have a more strict number where it's not based on the type of vegetation that would grow there. They just want a number based on the stream type, which is an older way of doing things and is not what is recommended by the Department of Fish and Wildlife. It is not supported by the tribes. So there was an initial draft that was proposed by the city's consultant, but in working with the state and the tribes council, provided direction to staff that they were not in support of going that direction. They wanted of not using the site potential tree height. They like it. So thank you very much, Master Builders Association. Duly noted that you are not the biggest fans of that approach. So that's my summary. That letter. So can do with that what you will. Was there anything? I think that was it.
What do you do with somebody who's submitted a permit or is they're kind of halfway in between during the review stage and the code switches at that point?
Let me tell you about vesting. So any application for review or for a development, once you have a complete application and you've paid your fees, you are vested to the regulations that are in place. And that is especially so when we have subdivision applications, we have a preliminary subdivision that we review where it's not to actually create the different pieces of dirt that you can sell off. It's the initial entitlement. So at the date of that complete application, the rules that are in place are the rules that apply. And that application is vested to those rules through the life of that preliminary plat application, and then through approval. Once that preliminary plat application is approved, you have 5 years to get a final plat recorded. And then once that final plat is recorded, you then have 5 years. That final plat can still utilize those regulations. So those older regulations could be in place for like 10 years if you are vested, right? So, but it's all on that complete application date. And if every once in a while, an applicant requests to no longer be vested, if they choose to do so, they may. And in which case they are giving up all vested rights. So it's not that you can pick and choose which regulations you want to apply to you. It's either all that you are vested to or all that is in place today. So those are your only options. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
I have a question about what's this abbreviation, SP?
Site potential,
Yeah.
SPTH?
Yes, I was like, is there a clever way to say this?
No.
Anyway, in general, because we got a presentation about it, and then the consultant was like, I don't think we should do this. I'm curious whether just generally we think this is making it more restrictive, like we're gonna have less building because of this, or is it basically the same, or?
It's going to be a little bit more protective of the environment and those aquatic resources.
So that sounds like less.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and generally anytime you have environmental regulations, they're never gonna get less restrictive.
Well, I was curious about it because
Yeah.
it does seem like there's maybe some situations where if there was like a really prescribed buffer width previously, that then maybe there's like a little waterway that's not necessarily in a condition that would support, or in an environment that would support very tall trees. Like maybe there's some case where it goes the other way. That's why I was wondering,
Yes.
sort of generally, is there a sense? For Duvall, does this mean less buildable area going forward or more? Or the same?
It's probably about the same. The rules are gonna change either way. Which I know doesn't quite answer your question. So with the new approach to stream typing, where most streams now would be considered fish streams. They just have to have the characteristics that they could support fish habitat, not the presence of fish. So a lot more streams will now be that fish type, which have a much bigger buffer than non-fish streams. So
And that was just decided, like, that's fixed.
right, so that
So
was
then
gonna
like,
happen.
how do we?
Right.
Okay.
So that was gonna happen either way. So the site potential tree height may not make much of a difference. But there would be more flexibility if you have a site where there isn't going to be the Douglas firs or
I
the.
think that's what I was like, gosh, it doesn't seem like this actually could
So
kind of balance out.
it could, I just don't know all the soil types within
Yeah.
Duvall to make a determination.
I thought it was interesting in that master builder's letter, they said, here's a whole bunch of other municipalities that have opted for the one that we now are not
Right.
gonna do.
So there are some that have, but most, especially with the very strong guidance from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, are doing the site potential tree height.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and I also will just note that we do have, so we have a couple regulations that would make it so that existing structures can remain, and potentially in some instances, you can still expand the structures, or replace them in some instances. So we do have allowances for structures that are already existing that potentially now are non-conforming or more non-conforming. We do have a pretty good amount of flexibility for those. And then I also mentioned if there is a site that's completely encumbered by a buffer, then we do also have allowances for economic use of the site. So you're never, if your whole site is encumbered, you're still gonna get some use of it.
What would that look like in practice?
so reasonable use exceptions are the manner that Maddie's referring to. So that is where, if you have a site and you've got a stream going through it and your whole property is within a stream buffer, you can still build a single family home in the residential zoning district. There's just the mitigation sequencing requirement that you must minimize any impacts to the habitat there. And so you might see this site that looks like it's like this big open property, and like, I'm gonna build my 5,000 square foot monster home here. But oh, it's all wetland buffer. So, okay, you need to have something more reasonable. So maybe it's an 1,800 square foot house or a two, depending on what's there. If it's like all blackberry, right? I'm gonna rip out all this blackberry to build a 2,000 square foot home, and I'm gonna restore all this habitat, like you are making it better. So it's that sort of thing. So it's not a takings. So people still, we're trying to not violate people's constitutional rights. But it's a matter of like how versus like a yes or no. Like it's more, you gotta do something to be a good steward in order to have your home there.
Is that subjective to what Duvall would say, or is there code language?
There's code language, and there's a lot of case law about reasonable use. So it does need to be something reasonable from both the city and the applicant. So it would not really be reasonable for me to say, you can have a 600 square foot house and good luck.
Does the city stay pretty neutral in that decision then?
The city makes the decision. Wait, sorry, is it reasonable use? Is that a type 3? Or is that
Secure
2?
use.
Okay. So, but there would be criteria, regardless of who the decision maker is, there would be criteria that the applicant is doing the proper mitigation sequencing and minimizing any impacts to the habitat. So,
Yeah, and in all of these cases, the applicant is working with an environmental consultant to give them the expertise they would need and to delineate the critical area. And then, in most cases, we are also working with an environmental consultant on our side to peer review and confirm that what the applicant is showing us is correct. So there is a lot of kind of expert information that comes through in that process.
Yeah, well,
Yes, I have a few questions. how will this affect our special designation streams and wetlands? For those who don't know, Duvall has gone through for various reasons and designated many of our waterways with a special designation that already has a set buffer on them. Specifically, I'm thinking of Coe Creek, which is a 25-foot buffer throughout the whole system. So that's part one of that question.
So I think you're referring to the stream maps that exist, and then
Yes.
our code references those. They're kind of, the streams are broken up into segments, and our code
Mhm.
references segment. So in any case where we're receiving an application, whether the stream segment is designated or not, we are still asking the applicant for a critical area study. And if
Sure.
it's determined that that buffer is larger. So for example, if it was assumed at the time that this segment was designated that it was a non-fish bearing stream, and they came to that 25-foot designation, if it's then determined at the time of application that it's a fish bearing stream, then those higher buffer requirements apply.
Okay. Okay. That those designations are very, very helpful, and to hear that they are not binding is actually very disappointing. I don't know if there's anything we can do about that because they're very, very helpful for developers and builders. The second thing I would say is that I am very much in agreement with the Builders Association. I think the tree height designation is onerous. I disagree a little bit with you. I think it would be highly impactful for properties in Duvall, and slightly unreasonable, especially in some of our zoning. We have properties in 4.5 zoning that is going in other discussions is moving to R6 zoning. Those properties may be a single home that are currently on an acre or more, zoned R6, that are completely unbuildable. And I hear what you're saying with the some exemptions, but how would that exemption flow if they were given a short plat, let's say in a 1 acre plot that was zoned R6, if they were able to short plat that into 6 different homes, would that exemption apply to every single property, even though the entire thing would be under a 250-foot buffer? And I say 250 foot because that is really what we're seeing on those, those cedars and red cedars and spruce trees.
So any subdivision application is required to net out any critical area already. So
Yeah.
it's not, and if a site is completely encumbered, it doesn't matter what the zoning is. You can apply for reasonable use exception to get a single home in a residential zone. There aren't many sites that are 100% encumbered. So the site potential tree height regulations, they're what's supported by the states, supported by the tribes, and
I can.
Oh, I had another thought. And any map that we have online, any environmental sensitive layers that are on either our website or on the King County website, all of those are advisory. So it doesn't matter what a map shows. Those are basically just triggers for staff to look at when trying to help someone get information about a property, to say, oh, it looks like there might be a stream on or near your property. You will need to get a qualified professional to do a delineation, to do a reconnaissance, to do something so that when you submit your application, we have all the information necessary so that an applicant can document conformance with all of the rules. So older maps that show different buffers are fine for advisory. And if we have old maps that show very outdated buffers, then we can just take those down from the website, because I wouldn't want to lead someone down the garden path on accident by having old information online. So we can certainly scrub through the website and try to take down anything that's outdated.
Yeah. I mean, it's really the old code. The maps were just a guide for what the code said. So, and granted, that probably will be old code by the time we're done with this here. But yeah, my final comment is that this is just an example of the schizophrenic state trying to decide the cause of the day. Yesterday it was, we need to get as many houses in Duvall as possible and get as many low income housing as we can. Now it's don't touch our fish. Yeah, I strongly oppose the new regulations. I'm not a big fan of the current regulations. So that's my stance.
Yeah, I don't think it's MBAX versus ecology or anything like that, but with the added regulate, I mean, as a builder, I'm a builder. Like when I look at a piece of property and I have to go hire a rocket scientist to figure out if I can put a house in the middle of it, it's another engineer. Engineers are $350, $400 an hour, and they don't mind charging you. So, for a builder and MBAX is part of National Home Builders Association. 2 weeks ago, they had an article that said impact fees, permits, regulations, all the soft costs are adding about $133,000 to the cost of every single house being built right now.
Yeah.
So when you put that on top of additional regulations saying there's no freaking way you can put this calculation that the builder doesn't understand at all. It just makes like trying to get a house or build a house or find a house that much more difficult.
Yeah, it is hard to balance
But like
the need for housing with the need for environmental protections. Like they can be very conflicting priorities.
But that's what the consultant said in the presentation. She said, we have to have a balance here. We can't just keep saying no to everything,
Right.
because then we won't have housing.
Right.
So it'll be.
Well, and this is part of the reason why we're looking to upzone so much, is because the places that are developable, how can we make the most of it instead of having just more single family detached housing?
There aren't there places in Duvall that are gonna potentially be upzoned that would also be affected by this? I think that's the part I'm not sure about, because it seems like you've got all these creeks that come down all the way through downtown.
So they might affect parts of them, but generally they're large enough that they wouldn't affect the whole thing.
But it does limit how many.
So it would be limiting.
So what she's saying, so when we get a proposal in, we ask for an analysis to see what is the developable area of the site. Developable means that it doesn't include things like critical areas. We subtract that from the developable area of the site. This is also when we do platting as well. But what it means with the housing regulations and the upzone, we're increasing density. So whatever developable area that you had before, say you had an acre, you can actually do more with that acre now.
I agree with that, but I think what I'm wondering, and what I think I'm hearing my fellow commissioners ask is the adoption of this tree-based thing, which requires an additional smart consultant to get paid. Is it a net zero? Are we actually taking more like potentially developable land out because we're doing a more ecologically friendly practice?
So,
Or is it basically the same? And if so, why are we making somebody hire another consultant to like calculate trees and stuff like that?
So the delineation has to be done by a qualified professional regardless.
That's our current.
Yeah, that's our current practice. So that practice isn't changing.
Okay,
So-
so do you think, I'm trying to just it kind of encapsulate what all the concerns are that I'm hearing, because I share them. And I know it's not easy to answer, but what's your gut say? Is this gonna make it like ultimately, if we were fully built out at the newly proposed upzoning, would there be more or less housing or jobs, whatever, commercial building with the FPT thing or with the more prescribed buffers?
So the more prescribed buffers are much larger than what currently exists. So buffers would be, right, so they both are. So whether it's the prescriptive or the site potential tree height, they're both considerably larger than they were before.
I know, but I think I'm just trying to say, the consultant recommended we didn't use this. Now we're saying we should use it because it's better for the environment. But does that mean just ipso facto, that's less housing getting built in the big picture?
For Duvall specifically, I think it's gonna be a bit of a wash.
You think so?
And also because this direction, the state did look at it as like they want it done statewide. And so if you have places that are basically more like just less developed, more larger areas of undeveloped land where you might have lots of little streams within a forested area, then you are looking at a lot of area within these riparian zones. Because of our topography, we don't have tons of little streams everywhere. We've got like a handful of like considerable streams, and we mostly already know where they are. Which would be fish bearing streams, which would have the bigger buffers. So that's why for Duvall specifically, my gut is that it really wouldn't be that big of a difference, but for other places, it could very well be.
So you think I'm not gonna hold you to it. This is not gonna make it any less, there's gonna be net zero.
More painful.
So I understand we're comparing, that we're moving away from an old something to a new something, but what sounds like what we're being asked to make a recommendation about is which of the new something. And I'm hearing concern that the consultant recommended new something was feeling better to some people than this tree one. But you're saying you think it's basically gonna be net out to be the same.
For Duvall, yeah.
What do you think? Anybody else?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I respectfully and completely disagree. Our largest buffer right now is 175 feet, if I'm correct, with a salmon bearing stream. Now we're not going to, we're going to go away from salmon bearing. That's fine. But a red cedar, which is prevalent up and down Kennedy and along Coe Creek, is 250 feet average growth. That's a difference of 75 feet, which is substantial. Now, places that are more than 250 feet away from those streams, they're not going to be affected at all. I have a specific property that I'm dealing with, and maybe I should recuse myself because it's being sold by my partner, but it's zoned R4, 4.5. It's going to be upzoned to R6. They were expecting a 25-foot buffer along their frontage road, and now they're going to be getting, if this was passed, their entire property, except for about 50 square feet in the northeast corner, is going to be unbuildable.
So, and I guess I will note that, yeah, it does sound like it may be a larger impact with the passing of this code, but assuming the 25-foot buffer is.
Sure, absolutely. Incorrect. And they shouldn't have done that to begin with, yes.
Right, we can't necessarily assume a 25-foot buffer because we don't have the environmental study to show us that's the case and that it's non-fish bearing. And if there, it really depends on what the study finds about that site. But I see your point that, yeah, it is possible that the buffer may increase with the new code update.
Do you want to finish mine?
Yeah, I just wanted to check what you were saying with the tree height, just because I haven't seen trees at like a 250 foot estimate by really even when we do our tree code and things, but the mature growth would be about 120 to 150. And then the tallest known one today is around 200. And this is like tallest known not in Washington, along the West Coast. So the likelihood that you're gonna someone's gonna apply 250-foot buffer for that is very, very low. It would be even ridiculous when we if we had consultant review of that, it would be insane of a buffer for us to apply. There's no science to back that up. So regardless, when we do we get an application in, we ask the analysis be done to determine the critical area typing and associated buffers. The applicant's consultant will do that study, and then what they believe is the correct typing and buffers for that string. We then have a consultant that verifies that then. So there is a little bit of, there are the checks and balances to that process too. It's not as ambiguous of, just looking up the trees and then being like, oh, it's going to be like 50 feet or something. So there is at least, there are checks with it. What we have currently, what's proposed is consistent with the state guidance, but it is still reasonable based on the current sciences available to us. We have when cities go to propose not following the state guidance too, we have to then conduct our own studies to back up and support the science behind the regulations that we're putting in. The city is not at the capacity to conduct our own detailed analysis to apply those buffers. That's definitely something that we could maybe look at the time to go astray from the state guidance, but we don't necessarily have the resources to not do that at this time. But it is something that we can look at in the future, seeing whether or not this is really something to invest towards as a community. But right now we don't have the capacity to even defer from what they have and be able to really defend that. So that's
the council, if these regulations, if the regulations get adopted using the site potential tree height, and the 200 is for the height at 200 years. So it's not full maximum height after 500 years. That if council decides to provide funding and budget for that level of analysis in order to update these regulations, they could decide to do that. There was no capacity or budget or political will for this round to do that.
Yeah, I think that my only question really that's not fully answered is just because I know that there's a lot of different things trying to be balanced here. And my real curiosity is just do you think that this actually is going to be more or less of a hindrance to Duvall's interest in increasing density that using the tree height based one versus the one that was recommended by our consultant? That was really the gist of it. And I understand what you're saying completely about the sort of go it alone, then you're kind of out on your own. You're not getting this sort of, I don't know, not maybe pre-vetted guidance that might save costs in other ways. That makes sense.
So the areas where there might be a bigger impact, if it was someone assuming the 25-foot buffer, those are probably in the single family neighborhoods that are looking to just short plat to have more single family detached homes, not in the places where we're looking to have the higher density. So with the upzonings, we'd be getting the bigger bang for our buck. We're not going to solve our housing problems with 2 or 3 additional single family residents.
And I guess I would answer your question a little further as far as, because I know you're saying that at the beginning of this process, our consultant came to you and said, we aren't gonna use this.
Yeah, that's what that's.
Yeah, so in that initial draft, we sent that out for comments, under the secret process, and the comments we got back, ended up meaning that we had quite a bit of discussion with, Fish and Wildlife, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and with the tribes, because they really had strong concerns about the approach that we were taking. And in that process, our consultant also looked at what other cities in the area have done, and also what other cities, I believe some of them were potentially appealed.
Yeah, Anacortes was appealed early on.
So basically we looked at what have cities done who have already passed these regulations, and what was the response once they were passed, and how do we incorporate that knowledge of what other cities have done to make sure that we are creating a robust code that's gonna hold up.
Yeah, but then that all makes a lot of sense. That clarifies, because I was like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the approach did shift a little bit once we received those comments from Fish and Wildlife specifically.
I think there is just something a little bit, as a person who does really care a lot about the environment, I think that there is something that's very alarming about these, like, that's like, we're gonna measure how tall we think a tree is gonna be in 200 years, and then we're gonna use that. It's sort of, that's one of the things that gives me pause, is one of the reasons that I fear that a lot of people have gotten very frustrated with government, because it just seems so abstruse. And, you know,
A lot of cities felt that way when they heard it too.
Yeah.
I know that from different planning departments as well. We're kind of like, how are we gonna explain
yeah,
this
it
to-
almost feels like an optics problem as much as anything else. Like,
Yeah.
especially if we don't think it really has that big of a net impact on buildable area. I just think, guys, come on,
Yeah.
let's use a number.
Yeah, I mean, I really, like,
Yeah.
I agree,
Yeah.
like, what was the tree height? The
Right.
number.
Like if I had a magic wand, I would love for there to be a couch that had like a pot of gold hidden in the cushions, that we could use to hire consultants to type all the streams and do all the analysis
Yeah,
for
I
us.
just feel like here's predictability. And,
Right.
yeah, and I mean, we all want that. And I think it's just the nature of this one feels like a fairy dancing around the forest, waving in trees. And like, I want to be that fairy, but I also get why that's so, concerning for people.
We do have, I think what we'll get, because, the other jurisdictions are doing this at the same time as us. What we'll get out of, looking at others and how they go through their processes over this next year, we'll get an idea and a sense of how, how this is going for other cities and what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
But I think also the state's gonna get an idea of maybe some things in their own guidance that are working. So we're probably gonna see some updates and some updated guidance to that over the next year or two even, that we'll keep an eye on. And I think too, to see other jurisdictions and see how they approached it, so that we can kind of take note of that roadmap instead of us kind of trying to navigate an idea of what we, it's kind of a little almost out of our own resource capacity to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I get
It's not the best, it's not the answer that I get to, but,
Well, and if planning commission so chooses, there could be, with whatever recommendation to city council, whatever it may be, to also recommend a reevaluation in 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. Like, is this actually doing what we want it to be?
yeah, we don't have to do it with the state required periodic update. We can take a look.
Yeah, we don't have to wait 10 years.
Yeah.
I one more comment. I was just looking at the site potential tree height map that WDFW has on their website, and it looks like the highest tree height, is looking at, it's 215 for Western Hemlock. So that looks like that would be the highest buffer width.
It's not gonna be a fun one for
Yeah.
planners to apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, we feel your pain for it. But at least in looking at where Duvall is today with the development patterns and whatnot, a lot of the area has around most of the streams has already been platted out. And then those boundaries are listed there. As far as developable area, most of it's already been designated as open space. And so, we shouldn't be running too much into, development conflicts, as much as you would think. But, it'll still be something that's, yeah, it's fine. We're gonna run into and see, but if it's already in areas that have been developed, most of the time they're vested to what they're vested to, or they have improvements that kind of lock in where their buffer is. So we can't, if you build a shed or a building out back, we can't then, bring the buffer forward from that. It's really from the existing improvements that are in place, or if there's like a road blocking and stuff. So a lot of times some of it's disrupted even by that. Yeah.
So we'll have for 7. You guys.
I know, sorry.
You guys
I know.
want to just keep going, or you want to take a 5-minute break?
Keep going.
Do we need to officially close the public hearing?
Yeah. Does planning commission, you guys have any other comments or questions? Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think with departure requests and reasonable use permits and some leniency and calculations, maybe everything won't be a no before it's a yes, but it's a tough one. Okay, being there no further testimony, I will close the public hearing on this matter at 7:14. As tough as it is here, I would recommend the approval of the agenda. Bill 26-9. DMC 14.42 sensitive area code amendment to the city council.
You're making a motion.
I'm making a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
Hey, all this is a no. I'm a no vote. You can write that down.
Write it down.
Okay, so just, can you provide clarification, how many ayes and how many noes?
I'm an aye.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, for one,
No.
thank you.
You're a quorum.
And it looks like you're slightly out of order, but, we have the last agenda item is just
Oh, yeah.
the recommendation of, design review, Baker's design.
Going back. Okay. I will make a motion to approve design review recommendation on the Bill 26-4, the acres and diamonds at CR 25-1.
Commissioner Chapel seconds. Yeah.
Check the go. Yeah.
All those in favor say
Aye.
motion is approved.
May I ask I don't know if it's a point of order, probably not using the right phrase. Feedback on the general outline of an agenda. Currently, the agenda format is to have presentations and public hearings as their own agenda items, and then new business as a different item with then the action to make a recommendation. If you want to keep it that way, you can. Or if you would rather have an agenda item be 2 parts where there is discussion public hearing and recommendation action as components of an agenda item to keep things consolidated. Not that I'm trying to be this.
I like that too, yeah.
We will verify that we are not violating wherever the orders exist, but I don't think we are. We will check, and if so, we will reorder the agendas moving forward.
Yeah, moving on to any unfinished business here. Do we have any unfinished business?
No.
Okay, well, I will move to, I will move to, make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Take
Fantastic.
care.
All right.